Hello, my flower friends. It's time to make a buttercup flower, and this is probably one of my new favorites. I know I say that every single time, but I'm pretty sure I just love all of them, and since I'm talking about this one today, it is my favorite. All right, so I've got a digital download for this pattern on my website. Go check it out. It definitely helps my channel, supports me, and all those wonderful things. Go to my website, download it, grab it, snag it, and while you're there, check out all the other beautiful digital downloads that I offer too. Alright, so I'm using my Cricut Maker, so the digital download comes in an SVG or it comes on a PDF, so you can print it on freezer paper and use it as a stencil that way, or you can just hand cut it with the PDF pattern and all that fun stuff. But basically for each one of the buttercups that I'm doing today, I'm using 6 flowers for each stem, but because the stem is so easy and versatile, you can literally do as many or as little as you want. I also have a bunch of little leaves here. For this one, I'm doing about 8 of these little double leaves. And then I'm also using my pan pastel. I love this stuff. It works really well to add some gradients to your flowers. So this is the Pearlescent Orange, but you can use whatever coordinating shade that you like. I'm also using this shade of orange. It's kind of like a butternut squash color and some wire, and that's going to be for your centers, and the wire obviously is to hold this beautiful flower all together. Alrighty, let's get started. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and take my pan pastels and one of the little fancy little sponges that they usually give with you, or you can use any little sponge or brush or whatever you want. But I'm going to go ahead and just spread some orange color in the middle of each one of my petals. And this is just going to give it some more depth and funness and more realism to our flower versus just kind of a little bit boring in one color. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on each one of my petals. All right, next up, we're going to work on getting that super fun shape. So I am using this super long-lasting hold, high mega freeze hairspray. I get this at Walmart. It's like $2 a bottle, so it's really nice and helpful. I'm doing a generous spray on here, and then we're going to let these dry completely before using them. I'm going to go ahead and snag my little curling iron with the smallest little ball tip. You can use a lot of different heat tools. I have a lot of other videos coming out about all the different ways that you can use heat tools to manipulate their felt, but I really like this curling iron with a small little tip on it to just use quickly. I'm using a heat safe glove, and I'm just literally pushing into each little petal after our hairspray is very dry. And what it's doing is locking in all of those fibers to stay exactly where we want them. So we're just pushing down with some good force and curling each one of those petals. I have my iron about 240 degrees. Try not to go too hot because then you definitely risk burning, and we don't want that either. So I'm going around each petal, and then I'm going to do one time smack right into the center to really bring up that shape all together and make a really pretty little domed buttercup flower shape. And we're just going to repeat this on all 6 of our flowers. Also, if you need more details about curling petals, go ahead and check out my other how to curl felt video, and that can give you a lot of more detailed pointers and tips and tricks in there as well. And while you're curling all your petals, this is a great time to make sure that you go hit that subscribe button and that notification bell and like this video. I know it's 3 little buttons, but it's really quick, I swear. And it totally helps my channel and helps me make more videos for you so we can make all these beautiful flowers together. So don't forget to do that right now. Alrighty, woohoo! Now that you have all of your petals curled, it's time to work on our flower centers. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this super fun, beautiful orange shade that is butternut squash, and I'm cutting about 3 inches by 1/4 inch. It doesn't so much matter about the length, but what we really need is basically 1/4 inch squares. So 1 per each flower that you're doing. And on these ones, we're gonna go ahead and take it and very meticulously and very tiny and carefully cut little circles out of them. They do not have to be perfect because you'll see in a second, we're gonna kind of like smush them, but get them as close as you can to kind of round those corners off. And basically we're just removing the bulk of the felt so that it doesn't make a big clumpy center. So it's a nice thin little bobble thingy for a center of a flower. All right, so go ahead and do that on all 6 of these little 1/4 inch little squares. All right, next up, we're gonna go ahead and add these to our wires. I am just adding a bunch of glue to the center here, putting our wire smack in the middle of our little circle that we're cutting, and we're kind of like folding and smushing it over the circle and the wire to make kind of like a little ball on the top of our wire. And I'm just rolling it pretty tightly and just really smushing and kind of pulling at that felt to make a little kind of ball bobbin on the top of our little wire. So that was on our main wire. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut a bunch of other wires at different lengths so that we can kind of build the structure of our flower. Probably should have done that first, but you know, I like to get ahead of myself. So I'm using all 18 gauge wire for this, just so that it really is sturdy and holds well. And so the first two wires, I'm kind of making like two branches off that are about 6 inches, and then I'm doing like 4-inch wires to come off of those 6-inch wires, and then another, I don't know, 5 or 6-inch wire as well. So it's just kind of like this pattern. So I suggest you kind of plan out your kind of placement of your wire first, so you kind of know what lengths to cut, and then go ahead and cut and apply your flowers to those wires. It's always best to go a little bit longer in your wires than you need, because you can always trim them, but you certainly can't add more wire back. So sometimes if I'm unsure, I'll just go ahead and leave the full length of wire, or I'll just cut longer than I think, just a little bit, so that way I have less bulk to work with and less waste. But that way I'm like never shoved into a position where I'm like forced to do what I accidentally cut my wires at. So we're going to go ahead and repeat that on all 6 of the wires with a little bobbin of felt on the tip. All right, now that we have all of our tips covered, we're going to go ahead back to our pretty little orange felt here, and we're going to go ahead and cut another strip at 1/4 inch wide. If you need any felt supplies, feel free to go check out my website as well, and that will get you all of the beautiful colors that I'm using here today too. Okay, so this is 1/4 inch wide, give or take, and I am doing a fringe on this. So I'm doing as closely as I can, so a very thin fringe, but you do have to be careful because felt is fibrous, and when you get this tiny and minute and small, those little fringes will totally just rip off by just looking at them sideways and funny. So it's kind of practice and figuring out how close together you can get without it falling apart. So the next thing we're doing is we're going to go all the way across the edge, and I am leaving a little bit of gap on the bottom. That way it all kind of holds together as well. So we're going to take one of our little flower centers and apply glue on the bottom, and take our fringe, and I am wrapping it around the bottom of the little ball of our center. And that's going to like fan out our fringe, so it makes it more dynamic and fun, and you can see it, and it's all going to kind of cup the ball underneath it. I'm going to trim off that excess and then repeat this step on all 6 of our little flower centers. Let's assemble our flowers. Okay, so now we're going to take our wire and one petal, and we're going to fish our wire through the center of the petal. I'm just using the wire and twisting it forcefully through until it pokes a hole in it, or you can use anything sharp, pointy, like an awl or needle or anything to kind of start that hole for you. I'm just adding some glue to the base of that center, and then literally just pushing the flower right up into it, holding it nice and tight until all that glue is set. We're going to go ahead and repeat this on each one of our other stems. Okay, now that all of our flowers have been practically assembled at this point, it's time to make our actual buttercup stem. Way to go for getting this far and hanging in there with me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some floral tape now, and that is how we are going to attach everything together. So with floral tape, the key is to pull tightly without pulling too tight that you're going to rip it. It's definitely a little bit of a balance. But we're going to go ahead and open up those fibers on there to basically let the wax out, and then it sticks to itself. It does totally add a little sticky residue sometimes to your fingers, which sucks, but a little bit of lotion will totally get that off. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take one of our 4-inch wires and our 6-inch wires and kind of stagger them and then attach them together with the floral tape. I like to then kind of pseudo arrange them as I'm going, because that's going to totally help with placement on your final stem instead of having to guess. So I like to kind of fan it out as I go. So these can be a little bit off center, off kilter, and that's what's going to make it super fun and beautiful once you're done. So we're going to go ahead and first do our 2 side stems. So we'll have 2 stems that have 2 flowers on them, and then the last 2 stems will just attach as is. So as we go on to start attaching our flowers again here, I'm going to go ahead and arrange kind of where I want them, and then go ahead now and wrap on the first set of 2 on here. And I'm not going all the way down, but I do like to fan them out as I go so that I can really see where everything's going to land, so I know exactly where to put that next stem on. So next I'm going to add the next stem, fan that guy out, and then add my last stem on here as well. And this is just going to give me a really good clean look on where all of my flowers are going to be placed. So now that all of our stems are attached, I'm going to take that floral tape and go all the way down my entire length of my wire. And that's just going to secure and hold everything together really nicely. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and kind of play with the placement with our wires and just move them around as needed till we get the look that we like. And that's what I love about wires, and I love using the 18 gauge wire on this flower specifically because you can really definitely move and maneuver them and they are going to stay in place. If you use thinner wires, it might kind of shift on you when you don't want it to. So now we're gonna go grab our little leaves, and these are kind of like double-sided leaves, and you'll see in a second that we are just going to add glue to the middle and just fold them across our wire and make it super easy to put these delicate leaves on here without having to clutter our stems with a copious amount of wire. So I'm just putting it in the center, wrapping it around, and then literally just pinching and folding it. But I'm also making it not perfectly folded. I'm kind of making it crooked so it looks like 2 leaves instead of having just 1 folded leaf on there. So it just kind of makes it a little bit more full for you. So I'm doing I have 8 of these leaves for this stem. So I'm just randomly, sporadically putting leaves on where I just feel like it's necessary. And you could do more or less whatever floats your boat, but it definitely just elevates the stem to the finish line when you have these beautiful little leaves, and it just frames the flowers so much better, and it makes them pop off of that green so beautifully. Again, I know I say this every time, but it is my favorite flower right now, and I love it so much. So drop a comment below and tell me what one of your flowers is a favorite, or if you're like me and just love all of them all the time and we're just crazy flower lovers, but I love it. Also, here is a great time to subscribe and like this video and hit that notification bell so that you do not miss any more videos that I'm coming out with if you didn't do it already. And if you did do it already, gold star to you. And I love you guys. Thanks you for being part of my super awesome, fun family of flower making people. All right. Also, don't forget, grab the digital download below in my shop and snag some other digital downloads while you're there. It definitely helps support my channel and helps me to keep creating more and more flower tutorials for you. Love you. Catch you next time.